You are to blame for your own unhappiness. The radical truth about reintroducing yourself to yourself. Good evening, beautiful souls. I want to start tonight by introducing you to someone extraordinary, someone who embodies what it means to refuse to lose yourself while serving everyone else. Her name is Tameka Conley. Tameka is a licensed cosmetologist, cosmetology instructor, salon owner, hair product company ambassador, wife of 24 years, and a pastor's wife navigating the beautiful, exhausting, multifaceted life that so many of us know too well. She's not just surviving the chaos of entrepreneurship, motherhood to be, marriage, ministry, and business ownership. She's actively choosing to hang on to herself in the middle of it all. She's making the world better by refusing to disappear into her roles, by holding space for her own humanity, by teaching us that we can serve without self sacrifice. And tonight, I'm here to share what she taught me, what she's living, and what we all desperately need to hear. Because here's the truth she dropped on me. And I need you to really, really hear this. We spend so much time frustrated that our needs aren't being met. We pour ourselves into our businesses, our families, our faith communities, our teams. We show up, we deliver, we sacrifice, we give until there's nothing left. And then we wonder why we feel empty, why we feel unseen, why we feel like we're running on fumes with no gas station in sight. And here's the part that might sting a little, but stay with me. We are often to blame for a good portion of our own unhappiness, not because we're failing anyone else, not because we're not good enough, not because we're not doing enough, but because we fail to pause and reintroduce ourselves to ourselves. Let me say that again, slower this time, so it sinks all the way in. We fail to reintroduce ourselves to ourselves. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Reintroduce myself? I know who I am. I've been me my whole life. But do you? Do you really? Or have you become so consumed by the roles you play, the expectations you carry, the weight of being strong, being the rock, being the one everyone leans on, that you've forgotten the woman underneath all of that? Tameka reminded me that in the middle of building empires, raising families, holding down households, leading communities, managing teams, showing up at church, being present for everyone else's crises, we lose track of our own emotional and mental core. We become strangers to ourselves. We wake up one day and realize we don't even recognize the woman staring back at us in the mirror. And when we don't know ourselves anymore, how can we possibly meet our own needs? How can we protect our peace? How can we set boundaries? How can we rest without drowning in guilt? The answer is we can't. And that's where the exhaustion comes from. That's where the frustration lives. That's where the unhappiness grows like weeds in an untended garden. So tonight, I want to talk about three things Tameka taught me. Three things that can shift everything for us as Black women, as entrepreneurs, as wives, as leaders, as women who are tired, bone tired of running on empty. First, well, we have to prioritize mental and emotional fortitude over endless hustle. Listen, I know the grind. I know what it's like to push through when your body is screaming for rest. I know what it's like to hit six figures and still feel empty because you didn't build the capacity to sustain it. I know what it's like to celebrate a win on the outside while crumbling on the inside. Entrepreneurship is not just about skills. It's not just about strategy. It's not just about how many hours you can work or how many hats you can wear. It's about whether you have the emotional and mental strength to handle the ups and downs, the wins and the losses, the growth and the growing pains. Let me tell you about a woman named Walker. Walker is a single Black woman entrepreneur who's been running her business for 10 years. 10 years. She's the breadwinner. She's the one holding it all together. No safety net, no backup plan, no partner to split the load. And after a decade of grinding, scaling, building, she realized something that changed everything. She realized that her skills had grown exponentially. Her revenue had grown, her client base had grown, her reputation had grown, but her emotional capacity, it hadn't budged. She was still operating from the same emotional place she was in year one, still carrying the same fears, still shouldering the same internal pressure, still running on the same empty tank. And that gap, that space between her skills and her capacity, was making her miserable. So she stopped. She paused. She reintroduced herself to herself. She asked, what do I need emotionally to sustain this business, this team, this life? What am I carrying that I need to put down? What am I tolerating that's slowly killing my joy? And she started building that capacity, not just building her business, but building herself, not just expanding her brand, but expanding her ability to hold the weight of her own success without breaking. That's what we have to do, sisters. We have to check in with ourselves regularly, not once a year during a retreat, not when we're already burnt out, but regularly, consistently, intentionally. We have to ask ourselves, am I building my capacity or am I just building my to do list? Am I growing as a woman or am I just growing my responsibilities? Because success without capacity is just exhaustion with a bigger bank account. It's burnout in a nicer outfit. It's misery with more zeros. Second week, we have to set fierce boundaries to protect our energy. Now, I know boundaries are hard, especially for us, especially when we've been taught that saying no is selfish, that protecting our peace is rude, that putting ourselves first is somehow uh, unchristian or unsisterly or on whatever label they want to slap on it to keep us compliant. But let me tell you about Penn. Penn is a solo entrepreneur in the creative services space. In 2025, she had a severe health crisis, a real life threatening wake up call kind of crisis. She was hospitalized. She needed rehab. Her body was literally shutting down, screaming at her to stop. And you know what she was doing from her hospital bed? Managing client deliverables, responding to emails, chasing down past due payments, working through a health crisis because she didn't have boundaries in place, because she had convinced herself that if she stopped, everything would fall apart. That if she rested, she would lose clients. That if she prioritized her health, her business would crumble. And here's the thing: Penn survived. She kept her business afloat, but she also learned something critical, something that saved her life in more ways than one. She learned that her health, her life, her well being had to be non negotiable. Not a nice to have, not something she'd get to eventually, non negotiable. She had uncomfortable conversations with clients. She set boundaries around payments. She reintroduced her needs as something that mattered, not something to be squeezed in between everyone else's demands. She stopped apologizing for being human. And that's what we have to do. We have to stop over giving. We have to stop letting our multifaceted roles as salon owners, wives, instructors, mothers, leaders, ministry servants erode our joy. We have to say no, not because we don't care, but because we care about ourselves enough to protect what's ours. Boundaries aren't walls, sisters, they're gates. They let the right things in and keep the wrong things out. And when we set them, we reclaim ourselves. We reclaim our time. We reclaim our energy. We reclaim our lives. Third, we have to embrace self accountability as empowerment. Now, this one might be the hardest to hear, but it's also the most freeing. In a world of funding gaps, systemic barriers, DEI rollbacks, and external pressures that are very real and very heavy, it's easy to blame everything outside of us for our unhappiness. And yes, those things are real, those things matter. Black women entrepreneurs receive less than 1% of venture capital funding. We're navigating a world that wasn't built for us. We're climbing mountains in heels while others get helicopters. But here's what Tameka taught me: owning your role in your unmet needs frees you to hang on to yourself. It's not about blame, it's about power. It's about recognizing that even in the midst of systemic inequity, you still have agency, you still have choice, you still have the power to reintroduce yourself to yourself and reclaim your joy. Let me tell you about Crystal Chisholm. Crystal is a Black woman entrepreneur in the South who founded the Oyster Journal, an app connecting oyster enthusiasts with growers. She bootstrapped it herself. She worked around the clock, pouring every ounce of energy into building something from nothing. And she hit a wall. Technical limitations stalled her revenue. She was exhausted, she was stuck, and she was blaming herself for not being able to do it all alone. But then something shifted. She received support through the Southern Black Girls Dream Investment Program. She got mentoring, she got a grant, and she hired a contractor. She delegated, she reintroduced her limits. She stopped blaming herself for being human and started building a sustainable business. She stopped carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders and started sharing the load. That's self accountability. Not beating yourself up, not carrying guilt like a badge of honor, but owning where you are, what you need, and what you're going to do about it. It's empowerment, it's freedom. It's how we build generational wealth and purpose driven leadership without losing ourselves in the process. Now, I want to be crystal clear. This isn't about blaming us for systemic issues. This isn't about ignoring the fact that the world is stacked against us. This isn't about pretending that if we just work harder or think more positively, everything will magically fall into place. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is this: in the middle of all that, in the middle of the inequity and the exhaustion and the pressure and the weight of carrying everyone and everything, we still have agency. We still have choice. We still have the power to reintroduce ourselves to ourselves and reclaim our joy. Because here's what happens when we don't: we end up like so many of the women I've talked to. We end up working from hospital beds. We end up hitting six figures and feeling empty. We end up 10 years into a business and realizing we never built the emotional capacity to enjoy it. We end up successful on paper and miserable in reality. And that's not the legacy we want to leave. That's not the life we want to live. That's not what we survived for. So, what does it look like to reintroduce yourself to yourself? It starts with a pause, a real pause, not a vacation where you're still checking emails every 5 minutes, not a self care Sunday where you're still planning everyone else's week. A real, intentional, sacred pause where you ask yourself, who am I right now? Not who I was 5 years ago, not who I hope to be someday. Who am I right now? What do I need right now? What am I carrying that I need to put down? It continues with honesty: brutal, beautiful, liberating honesty about what's working and what's not, about where you're overgiving and where you're under receiving, about what you're tolerating that you shouldn't be, about the roles you're playing that were never yours to play, about the expectations you're carrying that are crushing you. And it ends with action: small, consistent, intentional action, setting one boundary, delegating one task, saying no to one thing so you can say yes to yourself, honoring one unmet need without guilt, without apology, without explanation. Tameka reminded me that this work, this reintroduction, isn't a one time thing. It's not something you do once and check off your list. It's constant, it's ongoing, it's a practice. Because we're constantly evolving. Our businesses are growing, our families are changing, our roles are shifting, our needs are deepening. And if we don't keep reintroducing ourselves to ourselves, we'll wake up one day and realize we don't recognize the woman in the mirror anymore. And sisters, we deserve better than that. We deserve to know ourselves. We deserve to meet our own needs. We deserve to protect our peace. We deserve to build businesses and lives that don't cost us our joy, our health, our sanity, our souls. So here's my challenge to you: not next month, not when things calm down, not when you finally have time. Right now, this week, set aside 30 minutes, just 30 minutes. Turn off your phone, close your laptop, lock the door if you have to, and reintroduce yourself to yourself. Ask yourself, what one unmet need will I honor first without guilt? Maybe it's rest, real, deep, restorative rest. Maybe it's boundaries, clear, firm, unapologetic boundaries. Maybe it's asking for help instead of pretending you can do it all alone. Maybe it's letting go of a role you've been carrying that was never yours to carry in the first place. Maybe it's giving yourself permission to be soft in a world that taught you survival. Whatever it is, honor it. Not because you're selfish, not because you're weak, not because you're giving up, but because you're worthy, because you're human, because you deserve to hang on to yourself in the middle of the storm, because your life, your joy, your peace matters just as much as everyone else's. Tameka Conley is doing this work every single day. And she's not just surviving, she's thriving, she's building, she's leading. And she's doing it without losing herself, without disappearing into her roles, without sacrificing her humanity on the altar of everyone else's needs. And so can you, so can we. This is your permission slip. This is your wake up call. This is your invitation to stop blaming the world for your unhappiness and start owning the parts you can control. To stop waiting for someone else to meet your needs and start meeting them yourself. To stop being a stranger to yourself and start being your own best friend, your own fiercest advocate, your own most loyal supporter. Softness is not weakness. Rest is not laziness. Saying no is not selfish. Reintroducing yourself to yourself is not indulgent. It's survival. It's sacred. It's the most radical act of self love you can commit in a world that profits from your exhaustion. So choose yourself, not out of burnout, not out of desperation, but out of reverence, out of love, out of a deep, unshakable knowing that you are worth the pause, worth the honesty, worth the action. The world needs you whole, not broken, rested, not exhausted, joyful, not miserable. And that starts with you reintroducing yourself to yourself. So go, do the work, honor your needs, set your boundaries, build your capacity, reclaim your joy, and watch how everything changes when you finally choose to hang on to yourself. Thank you.